I purchased a lift chair recently from Amazon and it arrived today. And I didn't realize that these things don't really come assembled. When I got it out of the box, you can see there's quite a few different things to assemble here. A lot of little screws, more pieces over here. So this thing is literally a kit. It has to be assembled. And this, obviously, the base piece is quite heavy. Sadly, this company, however you pronounce that, they don't know how to pack a box. I just recently bought a Maytag dishwasher, which is a similar sized box as to what this is. Actually, the dishwasher is larger. But this is the box that they shipped it in. And as you can see, this corner is how it was. That corner was ripped open. UPS delivered it. It was ordered from Amazon. I do have a Prime account with them, but Amazon notoriously, with larger heavy boxes, does not ship Prime in my area. They always pass it off to either the post office or UPS. And the bottom of this box is cardboard. My dishwasher doesn't weigh as much as this thing weighs, and the dishwasher had a wooden platform on the bottom. This thing is just plain thin cardboard, and the whole box was literally destroyed. The top was resealed, I think, yeah, by UPS. You can see that sticker there. They resealed that because the top got ripped open, and several of the other sides got damaged. And it's, I mean, yeah, UPS obviously did their job on it, but the bottom line is this company is pretty close when it comes to using the proper cardboard and packing to make something like this survive the carriers. It does come with a manual, and right when you open the manual, disappointingly, it says you need 2 people to build this. So we'll have to see how that goes, if I can get the basic construction with just myself and just use some sort of a dolly or whatever and bring it into the room where it's going to be used. And hopefully all the pieces are here. The box, since it was shredded open on the one side and in other areas, I haven't done a full inventory yet, but I think all the basics are here. Luckily, none of the material got torn, which is what I was very concerned about when I first saw the box. That's all healthy. When you get it out of the box, I forgot to mention, is this base unit here, when you flip it over under it on its side or the other way around, there's a ton of these pieces buried in there. So make sure you flip this thing over and get all of the stuff. There's stuff here. They pack it any which way they could to get this thing in as small of a box as possible. So before you start assembling it, make sure you got everything out of this base. This is what the bottom looks like, so you can get an idea before I start putting it together. Alright, so I already see some shipping damage. If we look at this bracket, it looks good. And if you look at this bracket, you can see I've got an indenture here, so I'm not going to send it back for that. I'll get a pair of pliers out and bend it out. But this is, it's poor packing. I mean, you can blame the carrier all day long, in this case UPS, but I can't honestly blame them. This company did not pack this thing correctly. I don't think this is going to be a big deal to bend this out. Just get some, good heavy-duty pliers. And this, I believe, is the side arms, where the arms are going to slide into this bracket. This doesn't have to be a precise fit. This side also might be slightly bent in. When we get to that step, I'll see if that slides into that channel correctly. But this looks fairly straight. Might be a little bit of a bump inward there. But I'll know more once we find a piece that slides in there. Alright, so I decided to turn the other side over, and both of these channels are healthy. There's no bend, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, the first step they have you do is unzip the foldable armrests. I kept looking at these as the armrests, because this is clearly what you're putting your arm on, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the lower piece that's going to support those armrests. This larger piece, this is where you have storage, you can put stuff. And if you turn it around, there's a zipper here. So they want you to open this zipper, and there's some sort of a bracket in there that we have to lock into place. So I think that what that's going to do is make this thicker. But I'll get to that step, and I'll see how this works out. Alright, so once you unzip this piece, I understand what they're talking about. Here's this foldable bracket that we have to unfold. Alright, so they want you to use these screws, which they call the K-screw, to lock these foldable brackets into place. Now the bracket is over here. You fold this bracket open, and they want you to put the screw in that thread there. I'm not clear if the socket head should be on the outside or from the inside, so that's going to be the next thing to try to figure out from this illustration. It's not clear to me, but I guess it's on the outside the way this drawing is. This is what I've figured out. This screw fits in here, it's not an issue. I backed it out because we have to get to the bracket over here. Well, the zip thing doesn't allow you to get over there. And if you stretch this bracket out, you can't get this cover off this frame. So take the cover off the frame and stretch the brackets out on this piece first, on this side first. This is what the frame looks like when you don't have the cover on it. Okay, so tip number one here. I had to take these screws out of the brackets. You can't stretch this over this bracket when it's fully open. It's way too tight. And I had put the screws on from the outside. So you want to go from the inside to get the screw. You want to stretch this while you can collapse it. Then go in from the inside to get to the screw and put it on from the inside. Otherwise, I just spent several minutes trying to stretch this thing over this bracket, and it just wouldn't fit. So I don't know if this is a manufacturing goof or what, but the zipper is attached to this material here, the hole. So you can't move the zipper down at all. I don't know if I should cut the fabric or not for that. Totally unclear. I guess I'm going to have to look at the other side and see if it has the same issue. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. And no, it does not. So they goofed there, and somehow I wish I understood how they even were able to cause that problem. Very weird. Alright, so I have to use a pair of scissors and release that zipper. I can see what they did once I released it. The sewing machine just sewed right into that hole. The next step is really simple. You got to bolt these brackets on, and you have to make sure that the wide end, which is this end, is the top. And if you're not sure what the top is, it's very simple. From the back you'd say, well, what is the top? From the other side has the pouch. So obviously the pouch has to go up. So this is the top end. Because from the back, yeah, I mean, you could get confused. What is the top and the bottom? Alright, so before I put the last bracket on these side pieces, earlier in the video I noted that the bracket was bent on the base. So I have to figure out now which bracket I bent back with the pliers. And then I'm going to just make sure that this piece slides into it. because this is an easier thing to fix now than when it's fastened to those side pieces. The next step is sliding these on so that it's left and right. It's pretty obvious which goes where. Make sure the cup holders are in the front. The only issue I've got is they kind of have to be pressed in, and I'm not sure if they're in all the way. I don't know how much weight and pressure I want to push on that to make sure they're pushed down far enough. I'm unclear about that. I mean, you could pick up the chair now because it's locked in, but I'm not sure if they're exactly the same height. This one on the left side here seems to be slightly lower. So I don't know if I have to put more pressure on this side to get it in more. Before I decided to put the back on this chair, there's a lot of little wires to hook up, and the manual is, quite frankly, it looks like a spaghetti job when you look at the manual. It's just not 100% clear where everything goes. And just first notice, so you know, you get two power supplies with this chair. You get a large power supply, and you get a smaller one like this, a little wall-wart type. So you're going to need two plugs to power this chair. When I started looking at these cables, I was getting a little confused. The red and the white are easy. You connect the red and the white. Since it's color-coded, it's very straightforward. Then you had this connector here. For a while I was trying to figure out what that was because I did not take the power supply out of the box yet. Didn't know it was in that one white box, and then when I opened the white box, it's like, okay, fine. This connector on this harness here, which is connected to the back of the chair, this is going to that small power supply, this guy here. Now, the one thing I noticed is this is not any sort of a click and snap type connector. If you were to pull the power cord, trip over it from the back, whatever, unplug it to clean something, this is gonna slide out. And then I don't know what you'd have to do to get it back in. So I'm going to tie this in a knot and put some sort of a strain relief on it so that there's no way if you tug on this wire, it's going to unplug from this connector. Then the picture shows the cabling for the bottom of this chair coming out over here. Alright, well, it's coming out all the way to the very right of the chair, and it's cable tied down. So I guess they changed their mind where they want to route these cables. So there's two cables that come out here. One's a DIN with a strain relief thing. This thing's on a hinge, so that's pretty good. This way this won't accidentally unplug. And then you got this other connector, which is pretty bizarre looking. I've never seen one like that. It's got a flat spade and a round plug. And that goes to the other, one of the connectors here. I forgot which one that goes to now. But there's a bunch of little cables here. So before you put that back on, I would plan out ahead so you understand what goes where. Because once the back goes on, that means you're going to have to get on the floor and work from the floor to figure everything out. And I think this is just easier because I've got a chair behind this chair right now. So I can better understand what, how this is going to all electronically get connected together. Before you put this back on, the manual makes a note of this, and make sure this bottom flap is sticking out on the main seat. You don't want that folded inside the chair. There's Velcro on the end of here, and when you put your hand in here, you'll feel the Velcro over here, and then you line that Velcro up. It's really just like a junk collector. It's going to keep the junk from falling into the chair. When you go to put these side pieces on, there is a left and a right, and they're not labeled. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, this is the back, and this is the front. But here's the catch. I almost had a bit of a big problem here. This is pretty sharp metal, and while I was trying to connect that here, I almost tore the material because I didn't have it lined up right. I had it just more to the back. It just didn't line up right with the channel. So just be careful when you put this on that you don't accidentally tear anything here. Okay, I'm getting near the end right now, and it's just putting the armrests on. I had to stare at them also for a second before I understood this. There's a Velcro piece here, and I couldn't quite see the Velcro because this room's pretty dark. And it's over here. There's a Velcro piece, so that's going to get Velcro to that piece there. And it uses a zipper to attach it over here. This is what a zipper is. And then there's a zipper underneath this flap. So it shouldn't be that hard to get that on. But just so you know, that's how they're going to eventually look. Quick note, when the chair is in lift mode, I had made the mistake of cable tying the remote that does the massaging and everything to the frame. And that's a mistake, because when the chair lifts, it unplugged the cable, because I had cable tied it to the frame. So I have to snip that cable tie. So don't cable tie that wire. And the other silly thing is, they really didn't make that wire very long. The lift wire, this one for that remote, is nice and long, but the other one is rather short. And the other thing I don't understand is they want you to store the remotes in the pouch, which is a good idea, but why didn't they provide a little hole on the bottom so we can route the wires through the pouch instead of having them come around the outside of the chair? I find that kind of bizarre that they did it that way. Alright, so I finished assembling the chair and have it set up. This is for use for my mom. She's 95 years old. She's about 5'3", and she's fairly heavy. Disappointingly, she cannot get out of the lift chair on her own. It's not possible. And after looking at a lot of these chairs, I can see why seniors who are very weak can't get out of them. They're really not thinking this out thoroughly. When you extend the chair all the way open, or for lift, so here's the problem. Look at how the arms of the chairs are now leaning downwards. The more they lean down, the less leverage you have to push off the chair. So it's not very practical for someone who's very weak legs, weak arms. She can't get out of it. Yes, she can get out of her bed. Just pushing off of a bed to transfer to like a walker, she can do that. But in this chair, because the chair is leaning so far forward, you can't, or she can't, use the arms of the chair to push off, and she cannot transfer to a walker with this. I was very surprised, and now I understand why. It's not practical. If the chair would have just lift straight up, I think she could, but I've noticed that just about every lift chair lifts up and forward. So sadly, she can't use that feature at all. Now there's modes where when you hold the reset button, now the chair is just about level with the arms, but it's not high enough. I've tried this setting also to try to get her out of the chair, and she still can't do it. It's just not high enough. And because of these cup holders here, you lose some leverage because the arm is recessed here, and there's no way to push off as easily because it's cut out. Because every time she goes to reach behind her to push off, her arms are not long enough to push off on the arms here, so she's trying to aim for here, and you're losing a few inches because of that cutout. So this is just not practical for someone who's really weak and who's old to get out of these chairs. Now, as far as sitting in the chair, she does enjoy it. the regular recliner mode, which is a separate button. She's always had problems with a regular mechanical recliner where she didn't have enough leg strength to push the recliner back into the chair. So this being motorized, this is great. She can just press the button and it will, pull it back in for her. And if you continue to go, you can see the back also goes back. And it's fairly comfortable. I've tried it. I believe I could fall asleep in this thing fairly easily. And she's definitely been sleeping in it without much of an issue. But as far as getting out of the chair, this chair is totally useless. It doesn't work for her. I think someone who has a sports injury, where maybe they have pretty good arm strength, I'm sure this chair is very helpful to get people out of a chair. But someone who's very old, weak, frail, I don't know if a lot of seniors are going to be able to find this chair very useful. And I don't think it's just this chair. I've looked at a lot of them. They all basically do the same thing. I want to mention one quick tip. I found that this remote, the way they have it wired, the routing of the wire, it's no good for a senior. If their remote falls on the floor, they drop it, they don't get it back in that side pouch here. My mom can't, for example, bend far enough over to reach the remote. So what I did is, this arm piece here is mounted with Velcro. So you reach down here, there's a Velcro strip. You pull that up, and I rerouted this wire under this armrest. So it comes from behind the chair, and it goes up through here. And now, if the remote drops to the floor, she just drops it. All she has to do is grab the cord here, and she's got the remote. Because when we first assembled the chair, the remote fell on the floor, and she couldn't get to it. It was impossible. So I highly recommend rerouting that wire underneath that armrest, so it's easier for them to get this remote if it's dropped. There's a separate remote for the massager and heat. This remote, sadly, they don't give you enough cord. The cord is not nearly as long as this remote here. This remote gives you adequate cord. This one's quite short. In our case, I've tried the massaging mode and all the different various options here, and there's quite a few. None of them were very useful. I didn't like it. Tried it with my mom, and she, quite frankly, hated it. So I've sat in some more professional massage chairs to have a general idea of how they should feel, and obviously this is not an expensive chair, but this massager on this chair, I have a feeling the average person's not going to like it. It's not much of a massage. It's just a crazy vibration mode, and none of these options here really change anything in the way it works. So if you're buying this chair hoping to use the massager a lot, I think you better think twice about it.